Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today. This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Marriott's on the move.
What?
Marriott's on the move.
Again?
Marriott's on the move.
If you're dreaming about moving to a new city to pursue the life of your dreams, this podcast is for you. Moving 18 times in 23 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know it's not easy to make those decisions alone. I help you develop the dream, the plan, and the move, even if we need to get scrappy to get you there. I'll be doing interviews, career and city spotlights, and sharing my crazy moving stories, tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. Traveling to explore your dreams has never been easier. Now let's get moving. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm super excited for our guest today. She just happens to be my bestie. Her name is Stacy Colgan, and she is out of Naperville, Illinois. Now, Stacy and I know each other. We go way, way, way back. So not as far as college. She went to Monmouth College and got her undergrad in business and theater. Probably why we connected so early on, because I was always a theater acting nerd. And she holds 2 masters. The first one from Loyola, which is in Chicago, and that's for social work. And the second master's was from Benedictine College, which you at one point taught at, I remember.
Aurora.
Right?
Close.
Yeah.
Aurora University.
Oh, that was Aurora. Oh, gosh. And now Carter's starting to bark at his little toy. Hey, don't do that. So the Benedictine Masters is in education and leadership. And so you became a clinical social worker back in 2005. And I think a night out with me kind of kicked off this journey of yours. We lived in Wrigleyville together. Like Stacy and I traveled all over the country, not even the country. We traveled all over the Midwest together because we were recruiters for the company that I work for now. Hold on. Stop it. I think the listeners know that Carter's going to, at some point, don't do that.
He's part of the
Get
show.
into this thing. I feel like I should start over.
The show.
It is. I love him so much, but he just ate. And so now he has the zoomies and he plays with this little thing. It's a little alligator. And instead of eating it, cause it's one of those chewies for their teeth, he literally just plays with it and runs with it all over the house. So anyway, so basically, Stacy and I traveled together for our corporate job. We went all over the Midwest to colleges. We had so much fun. We spent hours and hours and hours in the car together. So we got to know each other very, very well. But you left corporate America around 2005. And part of it was when we went out and a friend of mine was crying the whole night, which is kind of, I'm not going to name any names, but kind of what she did. So once she got a couple drinks in her, she would just get the weepies and we just kind of knew we would let her cry. So that was my perspective. Yeah. Your perspective was much different. So remind me, because I know you wanted to go talk to her and build her up and stuff. And we were like, oh, she just does this.
Yes. Well, first I was like,
but welcome to the show, Stace.
Thanks for having me, Marriott. This is so fun. I love this. Okay. Yes. So Mare and I spent a lot of time together. And then when we weren't working, we were living it up in Wrigleyville, which was fun. One night we went out with some of your friends, which, Southern Illinois friends were everywhere. So I'm assuming maybe it was some Southern or maybe some high school friends. I can't remember. But
probably.
I was sitting there and you guys all had spread out. Everybody was everywhere. And you had one really weepy friend. And I was like, what is wrong with her? What is going on? And none of you were giving her a second. And if you know Marriott, that is not like her. She's zeroed in. She's helping you.
I was done.
We're done. So I sit down and I start talking to her. And then maybe I realize after 15 minutes or maybe half an hour, maybe 2 hours, or maybe the whole night, why you guys had spread
Mm-hmm.
out. But at the end of the night, she comes to me and says, "Oh my gosh, Stacey, thank you so much. I shouldn't be a social worker. You should." And I was like, "What? What's a social worker?
What's a
What
social
is
worker?
that?" I'd never
Yeah.
heard of a social worker
Yeah.
before. And she's like, "Well, I'm going to be in hospitals." And so she's telling me about it. Again, Mariette and I are recruiters at a large
Yeah. Corporate America at a tech
tech
company.
company.
Yeah.
Could not be more opposite. So we
Yep.
probably get home 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And the next morning I wake up. It's Saturday, by the way. I'm 25, 26.
Mhm.
I wake up. It's early. And I spring out of bed and I'm like, I'm going to be a social worker. I knew it. Like I was going to be a social worker.
And you have never
And
looked
I've never
back.
looked back.
So you just a couple years ago, you were working in schools for a
Yep.
while. And then you took the leap. You went out and did more curriculum. And then you broke out a couple years ago and started your own
Yeah.
practice. Tell me about that.
Gosh. Yeah. So 18 years in education, 14 years as a school social worker, and then 6 years in administration. And I just kind of decided that I was going to continue to follow the yes. Like, what's working? What's working? And I kept doing that. And over COVID, I flippantly got asked to do some private practice. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. I'm kind of bored. You can kind of see a theme here of I do things a little flippantly. They might not be the most thought out decisions. This was another one.
That's okay.
Yeah, we do that. So I started private practice, worked for a practice that had multiple therapists. And I would go in and I would see first it was virtual because it was during COVID. So
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I'd see like a 3-year-old, and then I'd see like a 93-year-old, and then I'd see a couple, and then I'd see like a family,
Wow.
and then I'd see like a woman in her 30s. And I was not good at all of these subgroups.
No. Yeah.
You know, I think that the building the relationship was okay, but when it came to like, what can I really like support? What can I help you with? It kind of went from like couples and families, not so much. 3-year-olds, nope, can't do it. But I kind of find my niche out of that. So after a year, I decided like, I'm going to do this on my own. I think I can make a little bit more money and I'm going to try this out. So switched from working to someone else, worked for myself, and really like niched down. Gosh, this is when you and I like really got into this, like, okay, we're doing something for us. Like we need to start, like
we went to Rise
together. And I think that that's where.
Yeah. Well, and that was, it all kind of kicked off because it was January of 2020 and we both sat. What was interesting about Rise, so this was a conference, I had never really heard of Rachel Hollis, and Stacey, you had been following her for, years at that point, right? She wrote the book, Stop Apologizing, Girl, Stop Apologizing, Girl, Wash Your Face. Like she had done all these things and I was like, oh, okay. And then when you had asked me to go to this conference, like I tried to go to some sort of like self-help, like self-learning, something every single year. And I was like, yeah, sure. And you're like, we're going VIP. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's do this. Like, you're like, I want to meet Rachel and Dave and we get to do that at VIP. And I was like, you know what? We haven't been on vacation together in years. Like, let's do this. Right. We stayed at some crappy random hotels, but
we made it work.
We had some epiphanies at this conference because, most of these conferences that you go to, like there's some big ones. There's a very, very tall dude that does one, Tony Robbins. And like, they tell you like, oh yeah, they build you up and they get out there and, be a savage after your dreams and all these things, but they don't tell you how to do it. And so she had this like recipe for like, okay, you make an idea soup and you like put all of your ideas in one bucket and then you make a list of the people that are going to help you. And then you chart out the path. And like, we both were like, that sounds easy enough. We can do that. And then we did it.
We both did
Which
it.
isn't a miracle because we both did it. And not only that, but like we both have ADHD. We have not even talked about that as the title of today's episode. I've not been formally diagnosed, but as my best friend and a social worker who like niches in the ADHD world, I'm pretty confident that I have it, given that you've diagnosed me. And I think that was like the funniest conversation we're pretty funny when we're together. So that was one of the funnier conversations because I was like, I don't even know if I have ADHD. And you looked at me and you were like, what? And I was like, do I have ADHD? And you're like, you're the most ADHD of any ADHD I know. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense then. Like, let me dig into that. And you like recommended some books, and everything I read, I was like, oh God, I have it bad. But it's been helpful to understand like that I have it. So for those that like have heard of it, I feel like the term gets thrown around a lot, and there's ADD and ADHD and so like, can you just, let's start there. Can we like clarify what ADHD is, what ADD is, like what the difference is? Like, let's start there.
Okay. So mental health diagnoses are all named in this big DSM book. This big DSM book gets, updated every few years. And they really take all of the research that's been done and look at what the diagnoses are, and really what kind of are all the qualifications. So ironically, ADHD is the actual title for all ADHD, even if you're not the H, which is hyperactive. So attention deficit hyperactive disorder is the actual diagnosis. It is not ADD anymore. So ADHD in the latest DSM. And there are 3 subtypes. First is the one I think most of us think of when we think of kids, which is hyperactive. Those fidgety kids that blurt out, that can't sit in their seats, that are kind of, little tornadoes. The second is a little bit more difficult to diagnose. Is what we're seeing is a lot of diagnosing in adulthood with women, which is inattentive. And then the inattentive is just like, you're kind of like looking off into space and thinking of things, or like a dreamer. Or I think more importantly, I'm in a conversation with you, but I'm thinking of 4 other things. Yeah. Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Well,
and then there's a third one. I'm scared because I feel like I'm check for both the first one and the second one. I feel like.
Which brings us to the third one, which is combined type. That's both.
Oh, okay.
That's
probably
both.
what I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that the best way to describe ADHD to those that don't have it, or maybe if you think, gosh, do I, is like you're in a room and there are, 200 TVs on, and they're all up pretty loud, but at different levels. That's what ADHD kind of feels like in your mind. And once you start working with ADHD, with a therapist, possibly with some medications, if that's the way that you decide, by educating yourself and by some coaching, so that's kind of those 4 areas, you're bringing down those TV sets so that you're focusing on one. So you have just one channel, one thought. There's still humming and noise in the background, but your focus is unilateral. It's not all of the things anymore.
Boom. Play it.
Have you ever listened to a commercial on the radio or a podcast and thought, I could totally do that? Well, I am challenging you today. Being a voiceover artist is an amazing side hustle that can be done from the comforts of your own home. Heck, it can be an amazing career. Just ask Jesse Carroll. Jesse's got over 1,000 voiceover credits to his name. Ever watch Backroad Truckers? He's the narrator. He's also done a ton of commercials for brands you would definitely recognize. If you're ready to try your hand at voiceovers, go to marriottsonthemove.com and head to my favorites page to learn more about his new digital course and coaching package. If you use code MOTM, you'll get 20% off at checkout. Have you heard of Monat or Modern Nature? I hadn't either before my friend Monica was raving about their skincare products that she's obsessed with. I took their hair quiz to find out which product line would be best for me since I just happened to be looking for new shampoo and conditioner, and I signed up for their VIP package that got me a little bit of everything to try out. Turns out they are the first anti-aging hair care line in the world, which I didn't even know was a thing, and their products are gluten-free, vegan, and Leaping Bunny certified, which means they're never tested on animals. Now I'm obsessed with their rich formulations that feature botanical extracts, essential oils, and other naturally based ingredients, and I want to share those products with you. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can hit the faves page on my website. It's safe, EU approved, and clinically tested by third parties, so essentially, robustness approved. Now back to the show. That makes a ton of sense. I definitely think I'm combined. If somebody, because I know I at one point did some like online assessment, but I know there's like very formal things that you can do to get tested to see if you're right. So like what's that look like? And are there any like, kind of pretty significant red flags? Like if you know that you do this a lot, like you might have ADHD.
Yeah. Well, as Marriott and I were just jumping on and saying hello, one of our favorite things to do, I think two of them, and we did both of them within 24 hours. And one is moving around furniture. So I moved around all of my office furniture yesterday instead of writing the report that I was supposed to write. And two is both of us, which I didn't even mention, went through our closets and reorganized our closets. And that's something that I did yesterday. So red flag, if you have gotten up and at 2:00 in the morning, you are moving around furniture, big red flag for ADHD.
You might have ADHD.
You might have ADHD. Or if you're constantly kind of assessing your closet, rearranging your closet, rearranging your things, or it's like the closet's there, I'm not even looking at it, or I'm kind of obsessed with it. That's another. Has to be perfect, or I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, I do it sometimes because I feel like I'm out of control in every other area of my life. And that's the one thing I can control is like, I know granted, I went and got my like certified professional organizer, like status, but like for as long as I can remember, that is the one thing that I can do to control how I feel in that moment and to like gain back my focus is like, I get a project. I'm really good at Tetris. Like I can make things look, and feel and be usable in that space. But for me, it's sometimes a distraction for what I should be doing that I don't want to do because I don't feel in control at that moment. So like, that's another probably big red flag too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what are the tendencies with somebody that have ADHD? Because obviously like you watched me for years and I'm still kind of in the midst of, moving around. Well, I guess I should ask you that first. Like, what's it like every time I say like, hey, guess what? I think I'm going to move to like here. And you're like, oh, geez. Like, what's that like? As my best friend.
Well, I mean, I think that we all have those. Yours has just kind of developed from moving. Mine, I do kind of the same with jobs. I've been in a ton of jobs over the last, 25 years. So yes, for you, it's moving because it's how many times in how many years?
Well, it's 18 times in the last 23 years. And I think at this point, I'm probably going to move in the spring. So I'm looking at Chicago and Florida, or maybe both. I don't know. We'll see.
I love it. Yeah.
Right? I mean, why not sell my house and get an apartment in Chicago and an apartment in Florida? And, I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm going through my own Fred framework, right now, which you like helped me kind of vet out. But for me, I have to look at like what's the dream, what's the end game, and right now I'm doing it. Like for me, like the dream would be to do this full time. Obviously, I'm very far from that. I have a mortgage and, you know, all of the things that come with adulting, which it can be really hard. But I look at the dream and like what I want to do is serve people. I want to help them move smarter. I want to bring these things to light. Like nobody, when I tell somebody I have a moving podcast and relocation, I'm sure they're like, I'm sure that's incredibly boring. But like, you know, last week I interviewed somebody that does rental arbitrage, which I had never heard of. And I'm in the moving industry. I interviewed my aunt, the psychic, who, you know, we were talking about what do you do if you move into a haunted house? I'm talking to you about moving with ADHD and what that looks like. And if there's a correlation, like to me, these are things that people need to hear about because we make these decisions and then we regret them, or we don't make the decisions and that's still a decision and then we regret them too, you know?
Yes.
So
I think that when we,
but yeah, I asked you,
yeah, I think
I was gonna say, I asked you a question and then I didn't let you answer it.
That's okay. We can do that. But
Yeah.
I think that, so one of the terms that we have in the field is masking. And boy, you and I are really good at masking. So an example of that is you literally being a professional organizer when one area of executive functioning that people with ADHD struggle with is organization. So that is something that you mask. It's like, I am going to hyper focus and I'm going to go all in on that.
Yeah.
So for me, it is time. I am always on time, no matter what. Both me and my husband also has ADHD. So it is like, that is our one, again, your friends that have ADHD typically probably are either they're not on time or they have horrible time management or both. It all kind of goes along together. I work very hard.
I feel like I used to be really good. Yeah, I was going to say I used to be like on time, if not 10, 15 minutes early, always. And now I find that I'm always late because I think in my head, like, this is only going to take me 3 minutes when really it's going to take me 20. And I know inherently that it's probably going to take me 20, but I'm like, I can get it done. I can beat the clock. Like I used to compete with myself on how quickly I could get the dishwasher unloaded and loaded. Like I very much don't have a good, a good, what's the word? Like understanding of like how much time something's going to take me to do something. Yeah. And then it pushes everything back in the day that I'm supposed to do, or I do it in inappropriate time sometimes. Like I prioritize things that shouldn't be prioritized at that moment because it's not necessary at that moment.
Saying all of the ADHD things. So that's called time blindness.
Yeah.
And I tell my clients,
ooh, is that what it's
time
called?
blindness. I tell my clients right away. The first time I meet them, I tell them, I have ADHD. I am extremely time blind. So I have clocks at both ends. So if I'm looking back and forth to make sure I'm on time, it is not because you're boring or anything else. It is because I just need to stay on time, not because of you.
Right,
so
right.
Again,
you're like, this social cue has nothing to do with you. It's me.
Yes, it's me, Taylor Swift. It's me. So,
yes, it's me.
Yes.
Hi.
So again, just another way that we have to kind of mask or like realize here's another thing. And you said a great one, which is prioritizing. People with ADHD have a really hard time prioritizing. So I work with clients and myself. Yeah, that's a good question because we are so passionate and hyper-focused on the things that we're passionate for that most of us aren't very passionate for, like writing the report I had to write yesterday. So I moved around furniture. My office looks fabulous though.
Fair.
Office looks
That's
fabulous.
fair.
Report not written.
I bet it does. So Stacy practices out of Naperville, Illinois, like right downtown. It's an awesome little office area. So it is, to be clear, and I will put your information in the show notes and everything. To be clear, you can only practice in Illinois, right? Both from a telehealth perspective and from an on-site perspective, right? So this isn't relevant to 49 or 50 states, but Illinois, like if you're good there.
I'm good for there.
Okay.
But I'm happy to recommend therapists in different areas as well as
Oh
coaches.
yeah.
If what
Okay.
Mariette and I are saying, and you're like, oop, prioritizing, oop, time blindness, oop, all these things are coming to a head,
Yeah.
or you're like, squirrel, squirrel, like, maybe it's something to think
It's a
about,
real thing.
right?
Yeah.
There really
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
multiple ways that research says to best kind of work on that. And one of them is coaching. So I highly recommend, doing some coaching, as well as the therapy, as well as really educating yourself, and educating those around you. I constantly tell my clients how it impacts them. My ADHD, my
Yeah.
family knows. So that's a big piece of it.
Yeah. Well, and you and I have talked about this in the past. Like a therapist, like I always say, and it's even on my website and everything, like you should have three people in your life, right? That you really, really like working with. One is a therapist, right? So you're like an archaeologist that kind of digs up the bones and, kind of figures out like what got you
Yes.
to this
Mm-hmm.
point, right? And like really like let's talk about your past. Like I know people traditionally think of therapists like, oh, we're going to talk about like my parents not parenting me right, or we're going to talk about, people like it could literally be like why I am the way I am. And let's validate that. And let's say, like, okay, that's okay. Like, yeah, you moved around a lot as a kid. So, of course, it's a little bit traumatic because you every single time had to start a new school and you had to make new friends. And it's hard to make friends. And so, like, there's the therapist, right? So, the archaeologist that digs up the bones and figures out how to get you where you're going. And then a coach like me. So, I'm a certified professional life coach. A coach is going to say, like, okay, well, let's build some blueprints, right? So, we know where you came from and we know what your habits are and what you gotta do to like keep that up. And then as a coach, I'm going to help you kind of remove some of those roadblocks and say, okay, let's talk about your dreams. Like what has stopped you from getting there? What are some milestones we can put in place for you to like phase out getting to this dream and build those blueprints? So almost like an architect. So you have an archaeologist, you have an architect, and then there's you. If you don't like yourself and where you're at and what you're doing and how you're doing it, that change has to start with you because you are the construction crew that takes those blueprints and has to build that house,
Yeah.
right? So for me, I look at this as like the trifecta of like if you don't like yourself and where you're at, start with
Right.
therapy, right? If you don't know what your dreams are, we're going to get you from where you are today to talking about that as a coach, and then from there we're going to set you free. And then you can always come back to both of us, right? And like, you can go to a therapist and say like, hey, I moved and I thought I was going to love it and I didn't love it. And, I should have listened to the coach that says, let's do a city POC and try it out before I buy it out, and things like that. But like what, like is moving, could moving be correlated with ADHD? And like based on the tendencies that and the red flags and things like that, like I feel like for me it's a tendency. And like I know we talked a little bit about masking and things like that, but like could this be deeper with somebody that moves
Yeah,
around a
that's
lot?
such a good question. Yeah, I think so for sure. I think that with ADHD, we often do things that are a little impulsive, right? Like going out to a bar and having a
Yep.
drunk girl tell you that you should be a social worker, and then you quitting your,
I think going to get
yeah,
two
and then getting
masters
two masters,
to
right?
do it.
Just doing it. So I think that there's some impulsiveness. So it could be like, yeah, I'm just going to move to New York City and figure it out, or, I'm going to go here or go there. I think that there is also a piece of that prioritization that's like, am I really prioritizing the important things here? And I think, again, sometimes we hyper focus. So, another big word in the ADHD world, we hyper focus on just one thing. Like, I'm just focusing on that I want good weather. Like, I want to go down and I want to be somewhere south because I'm so sick of this. Like, I'm in the suburbs of Chicago, and
Dreary.
dreary, gross, rainy weather.
Snow.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hyper focused on just one thing as opposed to, I love your framework because then I'm thinking of like all of the things. I'm looking at the POC for each
Yeah.
place that I'm going. And I'm thinking of like, okay, I've done my values activity and I know that family comes first. I have no family in the South.
Yep.
Is that
Yeah.
really kind of coming together? Is that really meaningful?
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to point out is that oftentimes most of our moves are like more in our 20s. That's kind of where we're doing a bunch of
Yeah.
those moves. And we are finding that I was diagnosed when I was in graduate school the first time. That's when I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, not as a child. And you as well. Gotta love when your best friend diagnoses you unofficially. But
In her
in your
40s.
40s.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, thinking about the patterns and thinking about I need to change, I need to move, I need some inspiration, I need some hyper focus, I just need some passion. I think that often is, wow, that's my ADHD. I still though need to bring in all the other things, the other values, the other things that are meaningful to me so I can make a smart
Yep.
decision.
Yeah. It's been eye-opening. So I just put that the workbook when you go to my website at the bottom of every single page, and I'm by the time this is released, the new website will be out. So at the bottom of I know I'm so excited. At the bottom of every single page is where you can fill out to put in for the Monday mailer. And when you go and sign up for the Monday mailer, I send you a 14, I think it's 14 or 15 pages workbook that you can start filling out. And you mentioned the values page. I mean, it really is important. Like you figuring out, like for me, I want to be close to a Pilates studio. I want to be able to walk to a coffee shop if I can, even if it's, a mile away. I want to be able to, feel safe in my neighborhood. I want family to come visit, if not live close to me. Right. So there's all these things that I look at that in my 20s and 30s, I was like, I don't care. I just want to explore. I went to San Diego once with a friend. I'm going to move there. And instead of like thinking like, okay, well, I lived in Ocean Beach, but really if I were to look back, like I probably would have, like, if not stayed, if I went just a little bit further north, I would have probably had all of the things that I still today think are important and want to have and could have been, like in the right place and set roots and stayed there. Not to say that I wouldn't have moved all over because that's just, I love moving all over. But at the same time, like that day to day, like niching down, like you could have that dream to move to San Diego, but like where in San Diego? Like what, talking about your priorities, right? Like what is the priority? Like getting up early, working out, walking along the beach, getting coffee, meditating, journaling, doing all of those things. Like if you're not in a place where, if you're in a place where you have to drive to that, you're less likely to do that. And then you're not going to feel that balance and that harmony in your soul that you need to feel like you should thrive in that community, because you'll just be surviving to get to your next, soulful experience.
Yes.
So,
well, and I think that one thing that I want to really put out there is when we find out that we have ADHD or some of the same tendencies as people with ADHD, I think instead of like really trying to like, oh, I want my ADHD to be as small as possible, I think that there's some wonderful things about ADHD.
yes.
The hyper focus, the creativity, gosh, if it's a passion of yours to like move around and to like hyper focus for a little while and then go and great. That's amazing. Again, I think that it is kind of an acceptance of that, of, okay, how do I accept what this is and really like work with it? And gosh, I don't know anyone that's done that better than you have. I mean, I think that you have like run with it.
Thank you.
You've run with it.
I have evolved. In fact, I am probably never going to, I can't say never. Always and never are bad things to always say. I don't think I'm going to buy another place for a very long time. I think that it would serve me better to rent, because buying a house is expensive. I mean, you've lived in your house. I mean,
Yeah.
gosh, I think you've been
13
in it,
years.
what, how many years?
Yeah.
14 years, 15
Mhm.
years? Yeah. So, like, for me, that sounds awful. But for you, like, you have a family, you have
I
children,
do.
like like setting those roots was important to
Mhm.
you for as long as I've known you. For me, I'm like, I'm going to explore everything. So instead of spending that money every single time, I'm going to find a place that I can rent for a year or two, see if I like it, and then maybe buy in that area, right? So like doing a very long POC. Um but at the same time, for me, like, I don't want to, I like the investment of a house, but there's a lot of things that come with buying a house, right? And for me, like, if I have to focus on one thing, it's not going to be all of those things, like putting in patios and all that stuff. That was terrible. Like, I'm lucky my grass looks good, and it's only because the HOA cuts the yard, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would never do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, so there's clearly a lot of correlations between ADHD and moving a lot. I mean, the spontaneity, the prioritization. Um, what are some other red flags that you can think of that maybe, as far as moving goes, like we should consider when we're considering
Yeah.
moving, or at least get coached through?
Yeah, I think that another one is the that passion piece and that hyper focus.
Mm,
How long is this something that you're going to be passionate about? Is this something that's like more short term, or is it something that you can see the next few years? I think that
yeah.
when we hyper focus, it's usually on something smaller, like a hobby. Moving, not a hobby.
Hmm.
Moving, you're committed.
Right. I was just gonna say, I've kind of made moving my hobby.
Yes,
Is kind of what I've
you
done,
have.
which
You certainly have. So I
yeah. But on top of, like, I was gonna say, on top of all the other things, like, I just picked up pickleball, and by picking up, I mean I bought the shoes. I took one lesson, and I'm like, I'm gonna do pickleball now, right? But I
love it.
mean, I haven't signed up for my
Did you buy
second
the
class,
outfit?
right? See, I already had outfits. That's why it fit into my hobbies.
Got it.
All my savvy clothes
Yep.
work perfectly for
I love
pickleball.
it.
So I'm gonna lean in. It was really fun, and I did, in hindsight, like, I played racquetball and tennis, like, growing up. Like, I played racquetball with my dad. I played tennis, passively. Like, I took lessons and stuff at the park district and stuff. So it's actually a combination of those two, which is really fun, but with a wiffle ball. So it was interesting, but I think it's going to be fun, and it gets me out of the house and not doing just a regular, like, gym visit. So
Yeah.
I've got to do something. I'm getting older.
I love it. It's so fun.
So
I think, just to answer
yeah,
your question and just to kind of wrap it up, I think that, the passion for the work that you do day to day for someone with ADHD is incredibly important. So for me, when we
yeah,
worked together in recruiting, I it was great for a while, but after 2.5 years,
yeah.
it just died out. It just wasn't.
It was a
It was a
lot.
lot. It just wasn't exciting anymore, and I was like, I'm just done. And I
Yeah.
think that that's why we do a lot of moving around, whether it's careers or jobs or actual physical locations, or I think that there's even people that are in one city or one state or one neighborhood that they just move, on and on and on. And
Over.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's something fulfilling about that. So, there again,
It's like that fresh start.
yeah, yeah,
But I think it's hard because everywhere you go, there you are,
there you
right? And
are.
so if you are ADHD and any of this resonates, and you haven't taken the first step to even do an online assessment, I think that's a great place to
Mhm.
start. I think that there's, setting up an appointment with a therapist that has a focus on ADHD. You can find, like if you go to
Mhm.
psychologytoday.com, you can find Stacy's profile. But you can also go in and search for, specialties. Like, if you feel like you have something that, specifically is bothering you, like grief, or, like ADHD, or you've got whatever your concern is, you can go in and search for therapists by that. Right. I think it's, for me, I haven't had a great experience searching through my insurance companies, like, portals. I find that if I can go in and, find a therapist that way and then go in and see if my insurance covers it, that's been successful. What are some other ways that they can find a
Yeah, I
therapist?
think that the best thing is to reach out to the people around you. Who do you like? What's a
Okay.
practice that's good? Lots of towns have different Facebook pages. So maybe it's asking your
Oh.
mom's group, or it's asking, um, people at pickleball, or it's, asking
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
you go have coffee with, I think that that's first and foremost is ask around. I would say that half of
Yeah.
my referrals come from Psychology Today, and then the other half probably come from my current clients referring their friends and their family members.
Okay.
So,
And I think it's important to note too, and this was a tip that you gave me many
mm,
years ago, because I remember going into therapy initially, like back in 2010, gosh, it had to have been maybe 2007, 2008. But I was experiencing depression for the first time.
mm,
And, I tried to talk to a friend of mine who was a doctor. And, that's a whole other episode about how she reacted. But I asked you, like, what do I do? How do I find a therapist? And you said, well, first of all, interview them, right? Find a couple and then have a conversation with them and see if it's a good
yeah,
match. Because just as I'm taking on some of these clients, there's some people that I know I'm not a good match for, but then there's some people that I can totally identify with, and then we would work well together. And like you had Holly for many, many years. Um,
really,
I tried Holly. She was far from me, like as I lived, about an hour away. So while I loved her, it was really hard for me to get
mm,
out there. So I found somebody more local that was a good fit. But had I not interviewed, I mean, there were several therapists over the years that I worked with, because I get depression in bouts versus having it last for a long time. Um, and for me, like finding, like right now I have Kevin, who, like, me moving out of North Carolina, I can't work with him anymore. So like I actually have even thought about that, because I use him. We meet once a month. But when I was going through some really tough times, like we were meeting like every other day, and he helped me get out of that, gave me very thought provoking questions to like think about. And then you and I would talk,
yeah,
sometimes about like what we talked about, and, just getting validated. But like, had I not had the relationship with him, I remember one therapist in particular that, like, I was bored. I literally, they wouldn't ask me any questions. They'd just be like, what else? What else? And I'd be like, I don't know. Ask me a question. Like, you're supposed to be helping me and guiding me, and I don't know what else. Like,
yeah,
if I knew what else, I wouldn't be here asking you for
yeah,
help,
yeah,
And like, I was just like, what the hell?
yeah,
But so I thought that was such a great tip. And I still, like, when anybody comes to me, because I actually was a mental wellness chair for my company. When people would come to me and say, like, this is what I'm dealing with, I would say, like, okay, find 3 therapists on, we used Modern Health. And we, as a company, would give away 6 1-hour sessions for everybody. Some people needed more, and then they can tap into our insurance. But I would say, like, go in, look at their profiles, see if there's something that you identify with, and then have one session with them, talk to them, see if it was a good fit. If it is, great, keep going with that one. If it's not, then find
yeah.
someone else,
I actually,
and that as a therapist, that's going to
oh
happen,
gosh,
right? Like,
yes. So I always schedule a
okay.
call first. So whenever anyone reaches out to me, even if I see a good friend of theirs, I set up a 15 to 20-minute call where I'm asking them, what are you looking for? What type of insurance do you have? What have you gotten out of therapy before? What did you like? What did you not like? And then I give my spiel, which is totally funny because from
Yeah.
the recruiting days, we used to have like a spiel. I have my
Yeah, we did our
your
spiels.
spiels. I have my own spiel about myself now. And so I really lay out,
Okay.
including like, I have ADHD. Here's how it impacts my clients.
Yeah.
Here's how I've worked on it.
Yeah.
Here are my strengths. Here are the things that I'm not that great at. And I'm really forthright because I want you to know coming in what to expect, versus
Mm,
coming in and being like, no, ask me a question. No, I don't know. Ask me a question, you know?
right.
So
Right. Yeah.
I would say that most of the time, luckily I have the right platforms, and my Psychology Today and my website is pretty on brand with who I am. So I would say about 90% of the time when I do those calls, those turn into actual clients. Um, but
That's awesome.
every 10% of the time they don't, and I'll give them a, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm a good fit, but this person is. Or why don't you try, this private practice? Or let me do some research and find somebody
Yeah.
else.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I think that's incredibly important to have that relationship because I know I can call, well, obviously I can call you, but if you're not available, I know that I can get in touch with Kevin and within a day have a session, and it just validates that I'm not crazy. My concerns, my, whatever I'm going through is real, and he gives me tools, whether they're cognitive behavioral tools and that toolbox to use through the week to get me through whatever it is that I'm getting
Yeah.
through, whatever I need to get through.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and I think you bring up a good point that, we're such good friends, but when we are talking, I'm not talking to you through the lens of a therapist. I'm talking through, we've been friends for 25, 30 years, and I'm literally just thinking through all of our history. So like Mama Bear comes out, I get mad about stuff. I want, so it is very different than talking to a therapist who their job is really to validate and to really hear you and listen and mirror back. Like, is this really, I literally put my hand up to my clients. I'm like, is this is what I'm hearing? Is this what you think you're putting out in the world? So there's a lot of that cognitive behavioral therapy, but very different than going to a friend. It's definitely leveling up. And the same with coaching. I mean, you and I can go to one another and be each other's greatest fan, but I love that you have okay, we're going to go through the framework. We're going to go from A to Z. I'm going to help you get there. That's very different than you and I getting on the phone and talking for half an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I need the framework because I'm ADHD to walk somebody through. Otherwise I go off on tangents. I mean, there's a million tangents that I always go off on, but for me, that's helpful. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. And there have been times too where I'm like, okay, Stace, as a therapist, how would you process this? And you've been very good about saying, okay, well, there's two different things that you can look at, or this is, if I was hearing this is what I would think or say or ask a question or whatever that is. So I'm so grateful to have you in my life, just in general. I think that was the best thing that's ever come out of the company we worked at together. But I also know you're a tremendously amazing therapist. And for those in Illinois that are looking for somebody, how can they find you?
So I have a website, watervalitecounseling.com. So it's,
I will put that in the show notes
because you're not going to be able to spell it, nor can anybody. So Watervalite Counseling. You can also go to Psychology Today and look up Stacey Colgan, Colgan. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know the correlation between moving is there, especially some of the things you talked about, like being spontaneous and all that stuff. So I'm so grateful. I'm sure we're going to get a ton of feedback on this episode because I know a lot of our friends have it. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I look forward to seeing you next.
You too. Thank you.
Well, I could go on forever and ever about moving you closer to your dreams, but I probably should save some thoughts for the next episode. A big thanks goes out to you for making time for me today. And making time for me, you're making time for future you, and we're both grateful. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the podcast, download the episodes, and leave me a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In return, if you go to my website, marriottsonthemove.com, and register for the Monday mailer, I'll send you a free Fred workbook to get your journey started. This is also where you can find all the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with me. A special thanks goes out to Rogue Media for its wisdom and partnership. Until next time, friends, keep moving forward towards your dreams. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. This is solely my perspective based on my own experience and training. Okay, now it's over. For reals. Bye for now.